It's the life everyone wants. He bought a retired yellow school bus for 20 grand, ready to travel the world with his wife and daughter, and spent more than a year rebuilding it. He refurbished the abandoned bus into a state-of-the-art motorhome. Megan walking straight to the reserved school bus. He called his wife with a big smile on his face. These buses are as strong as armored cars. I don't know why they made it so safe, but Megan couldn't wait to sign the papers. Considering it's still 3,000 kilometers away from his home, Miguel was not idle on the way. He asked his friend to help him drive. He took the opportunity to remove the seats in the back. Without the seat, even skateboarding is no problem. 3 days later, the school bus arrived safely in Megan's backyard. Wife took the lead in removing all the screws. She gave her daughter an early tour of her future home. When Megan's wife was pregnant, Megan promised to take her on a caravan trip. Now is the time to fulfill that promise. In order to make the ground better, Megan removed the heating system as well. Removing the ceiling is hard work. Megan couldn't bear to put his wife through it, so he asked his brother-in-law to do it for him. In addition to that, he had to remove the rubber flooring and sanding the rust off the car. These two tasks alone took a month, and when it was done, and primer the exposed metals to prevent them from rusting quickly. Then Megan planned to clean the body, but he didn't realize that the car was leaking. He stopped his wife from flushing. It turned out that the window screws and drip rails had deteriorated. Megan had no choice but to remove all the windows. He had to buy new glass and fix it with a new sealing material, so he didn't have to worry about the rain outside. The next morning, Megan started fixing the slats on the roof. Each piece of wood needs to be punched in advance before they can be screwed to the top frame. The foam between the slats and the frames reduces the heat transfer from the steel to the wood. During this time, their 3-month-old daughter stayed with them. The walls also needed to be slatted. The pair then sourced some foam padding. They just need to be based on the shape of the car floor. Cutting the foam pads, and the plywood had to be cut as well. The foam mats were then laid on the subfloor. The adhesive ensures that the foam won't shift. A layer of plywood is placed on top. Pocket holes are made where they can't be removed, surrounded by plywood. Before this, Megan had never been a woodworker, but to keep his promise to his wife, he was willing to learn and improve. When he had wrapped the floor in wood and put hollow bricks on top of it to press it into shape, he took the opportunity to sweep the floor. Meanwhile, his wife and daughter are playing in the grass. That's a real honorable man. In order to circulate the air in the car, Megan turned the top emergency hatch into a sunroof, and to satisfy his desire to lie in bed and watch the stars. But considering the unpredictable weather when traveling, the waterproofing and insulation of the roof should not be neglected. Megan washed the roof repeatedly with high-pressure water jets. Then he puts on some masking tape around the roof. The roof was repainted twice with white waterproof paint. White color reflects the sunlight most efficiently. It reduces the temperature of the room. It also saves on electricity consumption. Before the furniture came in, Megan will have to rewire the car's electrical circuits and wrap the wires in conduit. For convenience and simplicity, even in the rainstorms, it didn't stop Megan and his wife's enthusiasm. They took measurements of the interior. He asked his wife to plan the kitchen and lounge area. The bus used to serve dozens of people. Now, it's enough for a family of 3. Next up, they're going to start the official interior remodeling. In order to improve the insulation of the bodywork, Megan sprayed foam filler into the slats. It also acts as an insulating layer. By the time he was done, the interior was a disaster. Megan had to spend the night learning how to deal with the aftermath. Luckily, it didn't look too complicated. It was just a matter of waiting for the spray foam to dry, and then cutting and sanding it. It took Megan 5 days to finish the wall, and then he had to fill in the gaps that had been overlooked, and that's the easy part, is usually left to his wife. The next day Megan went to the lumberyard to buy plywood. Luckily, the owner was an honest man, and cut it to the right size for him. It solved a big problem for Megan. The walls were smoothly wrapped in plywood. Only the ceiling was left uncovered, because Megan chose the lighter birch plywood. He and his father-in-law punched pilot holes in the panels in advance, and then covered the ceiling. One of them fixed it, and one to tighten the screws. Knowing that his son-in-law was trying to fulfill his daughter's dream, his father-in-law helped him. He only wanted to take himself along when they traveled around the world, and Megan agreed. After all, they could discuss this later. Due to the large proportion of windows on both sides of the bus, resulting in excessive sun exposure, and the need for privacy was not being met, Megan placed rigid foam pads on the windows, after filling the space, and then he fixed a layer of plywood on the outside. It'll blend in with the wall. The next step is to use the boards to divide the area. Thanks to almost 6 months of remodeling experience, Megan is very good at working with wood. The area near the rear of the car is divided into bedrooms. Outside, there's the kitchen and the lounge area. Megan planned the space to the left of the bedroom as a bathroom. He assembled a frame from square timber. The frame can be used to fix the plywood. It's not much space, but it's more than enough for washing up. As a frugal man, Megan had to install the air conditioner myself. Who doesn't ride a bicycle to the pub? They should save money and spend money. After all this is done, he called his brother-in-law to clean the whole place. Just when my brother-in-law thinks it's done, Megan took out a bucket of anti-corrosion and moisture-proof top coat. This is the next big thing. This semi-transparent varnish can retain the original texture of the wood, but it's a bit of a waste of time. Before my brother-in-law started school, Megan invited him to install the cabinets overnight. These cabinets were custom made by Megan's father-in-law. It's a lot easier to install. When it was finished, Megan surprised his wife with colored lights. He really doesn't care about his brother-in-law. There's a platform at the end of the wagon itself. But it wasn't enough for the beds. Megan decided to make the rest of the bed's frame out of square wood. He cuts the wood and screws it to the joists, making sure that the height of the keel was flush with the height of the platform. The windows on either side of the bedroom were half covered with plywood, leaving only half of the window. To give the bedroom a sense of privacy, the plywood is then placed over the keel, and then you just put the mattress on, and you have a spacious double bed. The sofa is much easier to make. He puts a custom-made foam cushion directly on top of the wooden barn. This is the family's relaxation area. If his father-in-law comes to visit, he can also use it as a single bed. In order to ensure the electricity needs during the journey, Megan installed 9 solar panels on the roof, and covered the remaining area with wooden boards. No matter how hard it is to transform the car every day, as long as Megan sees her daughter's smile, all the fatigue disappears. With Megan installing 9 solar panels on the roof, he solved the problem of getting electricity on the road. His custom-made kitchen countertops have also arrived, although the entire body is stronger than an armored car. But when driving, it's a long, bumpy ride. Traditional granite and marble are prone to chipping, so Megan chose quartz countertops, and then he installed the sink as well. And then Megan didn't miss the blank walls. After all, there's only so much space in the car. Megan can only improve space utilization. Megan installed a magnetic knife rack in the chopping area. It will be more convenient to use in the future. Under his wife's arrangement, instantly have a sense of home atmosphere. However, considering that cooking fumes are difficult to clean up, Megan is going to install a backsplash in the kitchen. He measured the size of the wood, cut it to the right size. When it comes to the corners and edges, he cuts precise slots so that it fits perfectly on the windowsill. Megan's experience in remodeling for more than a year has made him comfortable with any tool. Then Megan arranged a bonding pad for the planks to hold the tiles securely in place. The gaps between the tiles were hard to clean. Megan found a black grout. Just add water in the right proportions and mix it, and apply it directly on the tiles. You must have at least 50 years of experience to be able to do it so quickly and accurately. After the grout dries, Megan uses a sponge to remove the material from the surface of the tile. The grout inside the joints will be preserved. It's the same principle as seam sealing. To increase the fire resistance of the floor, Megan had to paint the floor to protect it. Before he started, he uses a primer to cover the knots in the boards, to ensure better coverage when he paints later. That translates to the human face. It's also called concealer. Then you can pour the floor paint into a container, and gradually work your way through the floor. Don't look so scribbly now. When it dries, it's still a scribble. The only way is to paint it 3 times. You're going to have to put layer upon layer of paint, and you end up with a floor that's clean and simple. The daughter who used to be a baby can now accompany her father outside the car door. The next day, Megan's wife was doing some bookkeeping. The cost of the remodeling was much higher than expected. Megan had to give up on the custom bathroom door. Instead, he found a piece of wood and cut it to the right size, and then he gave it to his wife to paint. Looks like he's got a lot of family in him. While he waited for the paint to dry, Megan was not idle. He repaired the bathroom wall. He even took the time to go to a boxing match. Due to the limited space inside the car, conventional opening and closing doors were a waste of space. Megan purchased some sliding rails and mounted them on the wall. After fixing the door that his wife had painted, the door could be opened and closed by sliding. I didn't realize it was a barn door. It's just a little hard to push, so Megan asked his wife to help him fix it. Then he punched a round hole in the door and put this kind of handle on it. It's a lot smoother to use, to save water, and to avoid accidents during the trip. Megan chose a waterless toilet. It saves 50% of water consumption. So far, the renovation has entered the soft furnishing section. Megan gave up the dull curtains. He chose breathable blinds. It provides shade, reflects the light from outside, so that the room is not too dark. In addition, her daughter likes a bright environment. Megan added a long strip of lights inside the curtains. As a husband and a father, he wants his family to feel safe. All that's missing is the most important thing. There's only one thing left to do. That's the plumbing system. As long as the pipes are connected to the water tank, and pump it to the appliances that need it, no matter where they are in the wilderness, the Megan family will be able to wash themselves. Before we go, let's take a look at the finished product.